Hello, everyone. Well, we have a very special guest today, and we have never talked about, combining Chinese medicine and functional medicine for women who are going through perimenopause and beyond. So we have Dr. Shiroko. She is MD as well as a Chinese medicine practitioner. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so delighted to share information.
Great. So I think since you are both MD and Chinese medicine, I'm going to take the liberty to ask you different questions I normally do. So thank you. So I think I want to start with perimenopause testing part, right? Functional medicine doctors spend they have a lot of testing that they they prescribe, I should say, that to consumers. And we are a little bit confused, Dutch test, this test, that test. And then typically, okay, now you know what to do. So do you want to kind of walk us through on the testing and then how the Chinese medicine and how the amalgamation comes?
Sure. So first of all, for any woman in perimenopause, there's a whole series of things that are happening in their bodies. And it can start as early as your mid 30s. And so some people get confused with the symptoms that they start to have because they can start so early. And it's all about balance. So because I used both Chinese and Western medicine, I work with people to get them balanced so that they can be as healthy as possible. And one of the things that I love to do is look at your hormones to see where they are. And the testing I do is not blood testing. I use the Dutch test. And so I just want to show what that all entails for a brief second, because there's so much more to your hormones than you think. All of your adrenal hormones, so your adrenals and your ovaries are measured in this test, but all of your adrenal hormones start from cholesterol. And so that's one of the reasons we don't like cholesterol to be too low. And you see this whole chain of all kinds of things, right? So, and I don't expect you to know it or understand it at this point in time, but here is progesterone, pretty high up on the chain of production of hormones. And way over here are all the estrogens, and they're sort of the end of the chain of production. But then there's also cortisol, which can cause problems in perimenopause. There's DHEA, which can cause you to be, if it's too low, can cause you to be fatigued. And again, progesterone starts to change early in perimenopause. And what I love about this test is, one, not only does it test the levels where you're at, but it measures them at different times of day, and it measures how your body uses your hormones. And what's most important in taking care of any sort of issue is knowing what your body's doing and understanding, how is it working, what is it doing, and what patterns is it existing. And that way I can help you the most, so like if there's like really severe PMS, that's one thing. Or if there's really bad, not hot flashes at night, or weight gain that you didn't expect to have, there's like all these different symptoms that go with different hormones and different things. And so I do this Dutch test, which is dried urine, which you collect 4 times in a day. And then I get to see all of those different hormones that I just showed you. And the 2 things that I personally think are really important. One is how your body uses its hormones, and 2, the fact that everything's connected. Because in that chart that I just showed you, everything is connected. You see arrows going in all directions, and that means that everything is important and everything has to be in balance in order for your body to feel its best. So that was your hormone question.
Okay, so let's say, this is good, because I was getting a little confused that if someone takes the urine in the morning and that time the hormones are at a different level and they don't take it during the day, how the hormones are fluctuating, how will the test come out? So you answer the question. So let's say, so at what point you say, okay, Chinese medicine or BHRT or lifestyle, like diet, nutrition, all the holistic therapies, how do you kind of decide, like, what's the process now afterwards?
Well, I've been doing what I do for 30 years. So I have a lot of experience, and B, I always start with Chinese medicine, sort of as in the initial visit. I ask a lot of questions and I spend a lot of time with the person. I spend over an hour with the person, and I get a lot of information. And that tells me what systems and what parts of the body are out of balance. Depending on where they are and what's happening, I can see whether acupuncture or Chinese herbs or a diet change or jumping right into hormones will make a difference. Quite often, I can help somebody feel better pretty quickly with just acupuncture. So not even having to take herbs. Some women start even very, very young in their early 20s having issues with their periods and imbalances. And in those cases, sometimes I need to use Chinese herbs. And then sort of hormones, even though I use bioidentical hormones, they're not always my first choice because there's so many possibilities of feeling better before you get to hormones. So it's basically all about finding balance and what would it take in order for you to be as balanced as possible. Now, one of the things that happens with perimenopause is that both of your estrogen and progesterone are supposed to drop kind of evenly at the same time. And one of the things that happens is that because of the toxins in our environment, there's a lot of sort of, I don't want to call it fake estrogen, but it's estrogenic things in our environment that cause our bodies to think they still have more estrogen. And then the progesterone is going down much more rapidly because there's less toxins in the environment that affect progesterone. And so then you have this imbalance between those things, which we call estrogen dominance, right? And so that can fairly easily be resolved with supplements, with foods, changes in certain habits that we do. So it can be resolved pretty quickly with just those sorts of things. So depending again on what is going on with the person, I will decide how easy it is for me to correct that imbalance.
Okay, so that makes sense. So I do want to talk. I think you wanted to show some acupressure points, maybe, but I want to ask one more question. On now, the fact is, all women are going to go through this phase, and eventually, when you hit menopause, progesterone and estrogen are, I think, complete. I'm not a doctor, so you have to excuse my language here, but I'm trying to talk in a simple layman's language. Are pretty much gone from our body, right? So now my question is. You're going to answer that, is that do you recommend every woman at that phase 50 plus to go through bioidentical hormone therapy, or something else can be done in lieu of hormone therapy?
It's very, very individual. And again, I've been doing this for so many years, and I have some women who cannot take hormones. They can't tolerate them, or they have a severe family history. And there's a lot of controversy about breast cancer and various cancers and hormones, and it's very individual for each person. And so, like I have one patient, and she's in her mid-50s, and I gave her progesterone and estrogen and made her feel like her pelvis was falling out. And so she didn't feel good at all. And so I manage her with just acupuncture and some herbs. Women who have severe perimenopausal symptoms and just can't get comfortable, hormones might be their best option. And so it's individual to that person and to what is going on with them and what they want to do in their lives, so that's why I spend so much time with each person, is to figure out where is that imbalance, what do you need, and where do we intervene. I have a couple of acupressure points because I have people who have hot flashes, and it's fairly easy to manage them with a couple of things. One is, I had one patient for years, she managed her hot flashes just eating blueberries at night. Blueberries in Chinese medicine, so like foods have different essences and qualities. Everything is about energy. So everything has energy, but blueberries have a cooling quality. And so, for her, a cup of blueberries every evening helped her not have hot flashes. That's not for everybody, but it does work for some people. And then I'm going to show you this point on my legs. I don't know, it's going to be a little hard. But this is the inside of my leg right here. And actually I put a little tiny piece of tape there, right here. And it's, there's a bone here. This is called the tibia. And as you come up, it kind of starts to flare out as you get closer to the knee. And there's usually a tender spot right there. That point, along with one on the opposite side of the leg, and I don't have one there. Sorry. Where the fibula, so there's another bone over here, and you can just trace it up and you'll find the head of it, and then you'll find a little indentation right there. And these 2 points together help with hot flashes. And they work amazingly, and you can massage them. You can just kind of take your knees and kind of massage them like that, or you can stimulate them with like I don't want to say something sharp, but like I have a paintbrush here that has a little blunt end, and you could massage it with that. And that will help with the hot flashes. If you have acupuncture, that might be what your doctor or your acupuncturist does with you, is to use those points to help you with your hot flashes. And there's so many other points in the body that will help balance hormones, but those specifically, like this one person who cannot tolerate hormones, I have these tiny little needles, they're called Pionex. And that's what I showed you on my leg. They have a tiny, tiny little needle, and you can wear that for a week. And it'll keep you from feeling those hot flashes so much. So things like that can work. But again, every person is so different that it's hard to decide until we reach some kind of conclusion. But you also asked about estrogen and progesterone. So when the ovaries stop working, 95% of your estrogen and progesterone stop being made, but your adrenals still make some. Just like for men, their testes make testosterone, and women have never had the same amount of testosterone because our ovaries don't make it, but our testosterone is made in our adrenals. So the adrenals have to be supported because they do so many things, including estrogen and progesterone. So,
All right. Okay, no, this is great. Well, this is a quick 10-minute session that we bring on a daily basis. I know you're empty, but feel free to add anything else you like to add. I keep these sessions very short because of the time that I respect the time experts give us. But anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up? And of course, I think you're doing amazing work in this, and share your information as well, please.
sure. So the one other thing I would add is that all changes in life and transitions are uncomfortable. And a lot of times as we approach perimenopause, there are other changes in our lives going on, personal changes, sometimes work changes. Usually that's when our children are growing up too. And so there's all these big transitions happening. And approaching a transition with grace is much easier than letting it slam you. So like paying attention to what your body's doing and nurturing yourself and taking good care of yourself is really an important thing in terms of handling any transition, but also in terms of living your life to the fullest. So I know it's hard to think about ourselves as getting older, because when I went through menopause myself, I went through that. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to stop having my periods. And it's intense thinking about that big of a transition, but good things come in all times of our lives. And so to try to remain positive about any kind of transition, including this one. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's hard, because we women are not generally in the world, women are more like fertility and focuses on fertility. And then after that, nobody wants to talk about what women are going through, perimenopause, menopause. And it's like always a hush hush kind of a thing. Oh, I don't want to discuss this kind of a thing with anyone. And like you are bringing it out, we are trying to bring it out so that, we can talk about it openly and seek the guidance and the help that we need. So please share your email. I'm not sorry, email, your website or anything else that you like.
Sure. My website is heart2heartmedicalcenter.com. And part of that is because for me, it's all about heart connection to another person's heart. And that the biggest healing comes from love. And so that's why I use Heart to Heart as my website. And everything that you need to know about me is right there. So what I do, how I work, what a visit is. I've written a book, my beautiful book, Healing When It Seems Impossible, 7 Keys to Defy the Odds. And that's also available on my website. So hearttoheartmedicalcenter.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you so much.
to everyone else, we are bringing the programs with holistic therapy. So stay tuned, especially. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks.